going to also try to do a little bit better job of developing for the viewer's information where the light source is. So I'm going to be adding some light in this area to give that information to the viewer that the light is coming from just slightly to the right of 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, somewhere in there. And thereby, as I work on that, isolating that light source a little bit more, we should see an increase in visual interest. Now, I'm going with a little bit stronger, a dark with burnt sienna here, trying to get suggest a little more earthiness in this tree trunk. Maybe trying to suggest a little bit more clearly the rough bark or the rough nature here. And now I might go to this lighter color. Let's get a little touch of sunlight coming through here against this dark. Now, one of the marvelous things about oil paint is you can do something like this, and this is something a photographer finds quite difficult. I can come with a nice light color, a little bit lighter color and a cool color on the back side of this tree right here to help suggest a reflection coming up and illuminating the back side of this tree. I'm going to go a little bit lighter here. I'm going to let a little touch of light hit and let it hit right here. Lighten that up just a little bit there. I think now one of the things I see here is I've gotten a little thick up here, so I'm going to clean out my brush and take some of the thickness out of the top of this tree. All I do is wash my brush in my mineral spirits. The painting is dry, so I can take a little bit of that thickness out right here if I wish. And now go a little bit, not quite so light, right there. And we'll go with some of that kind of a light but cool reflected light in the background here. A little bit darker again. touch of cool red. And I'm going to go back again with that kind of a reflected light bouncing off the water, somehow illuminating the back side of this tree. Which gives it a certain amount of radiance. Okay? Now, having put that tree there, I'm going to need to put a little lighter light on some of these rocks here. So I'm going to put a slightly lighter stroke of light on that rock, as if to suggest that we got a little bit more light there. Okay? Now, to help this look a little bit more natural, I'm going to put a touch of green. There's got to be some kind of green growing back in, amongst these rocks. So I'm going to put a little bit of greenness in here. It could be just some kind of weed. And we're going to have to suggest just a little touch of foliage that's associated with this tree. So in the photograph, there's really no foliage associated with this tree. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of a branch here, soften the edges, and let there be a little bit of foliage associated with this tree. And when we put that foliage in there like that, we can go darker in the shadow underneath it. So I'm going to take and put a little darker shadow underneath that cluster of leaves. Since we have some moss growing on the rocks, we ought to have a little bit of moss growing on the trunk of this tree. So I'm going to take a little bit of that mossy, cool earth color, and we're going to break this tree up a little bit with some moss. And that will help fit it into the environment just a little bit more. Okay? Now, as I look at this, I'm going to put just a little suggestion of a bush that is right in here. That is coming out of the same piece of ground that that tree is. And we'll put just a little bit of information that a touch of light has gotten through to illuminate it. I'm putting a little darker crack here. Now, with that being said and done, let's put a little stroke of brighter light in a couple of places back here. And we'll try to get a little better suggestion of where the light is coming from. Okay. Now, there are other things that we could do to this painting. And there's that hunting and pecking part. The greatest limiting factor we have in doing a painting is being able to see what we're looking at. We have been looking at this photograph, and out of the workshop of 8 people, and then counting mine, we have 9 different interpretations of this picture because we have 9 different levels of the ability to see what we're looking at. To improve our ability to see something, drawing is really essential. So for those of you that are watching this video, I'd really like to encourage you, take time to get some, it doesn't have to be expensive paper. It can be the brown wrapping paper that you get at one of the home improvement stores. Get some Conte crayon or charcoal or chalk, whatever. Take time to draw, because any amount of time you spend learning how to draw is going to have a direct effect on your ability to paint. You never outgrow your need for drawing. If you're drawing a figure, the ability to draw a figure has a direct impact on how well you can draw a rock, because so many of the contours are the same, or a portrait, or drawing animals. So I really encourage you to take time to draw.